It's not your journey to take. It's not your journey to take. It's not your journey to take. Let's learn. Let's learn.
Good morning. Good morning to Not Your Journey to Take, early morning sip and chat. It is Monday. I hope that you are starting your week on a good note, that you're starting your week focusing on you so that you can help others. I hope that you will start your week so that you can have a super fantastic week on purpose. So let's get started. My name is Keisha Mason Campbell. Hey, Asha. My name is Keisha Mason Campbell. I am the author of Not Your Journey to Take. I teach women that no is a complete sentence, and I show them how to set healthy boundaries with family and friends while putting their needs first. So for the month of January, we've had weekly tasks. So let's do a recap before we get started with this week. Week 1, as we're setting our goals for the year, I ask that you set at least a couple of boundaries as your goals. You didn't have to do a whole lot. Just do a couple, especially if it's not something that you're used to, if it's not something that you normally do. Just set a couple of boundaries as goals. Week 2, I asked you to test some of those boundaries. Test them, right? Your boundaries could be anything, right? It depends upon you and your situation and what you have going on in your life. The easiest one and the quickest one that I share a lot is just saying no. Saying no. And not to say no to be mean or malice, or say no because, you just don't want to because you just having a moment and you just, wanting to be upset and just do it out of anger. Right? We're not doing it for that reason. We're saying no because we're putting ourselves first. We go through this mental checklist to make sure that we are showing up for ourselves and we aren't putting you before we put ourselves. Right? So with that being said, for week 2, I asked you to test some of those boundaries. And in some of those boundaries, for some of you, it may have been a no here or there. And you can say no, and you can say no out of love and kindness. You can say no out of where you are and what you have going on. Once you go through that mental checklist, what do I have going on? Am I busy? Am I taking care of me? Do I already have something going on? Do I already have something else to do? Do I already have something else planned? If the answer is no to any of that, then by all means, show up when people ask. But if you already have something going on, and that something is focused on you, don't sell yourself short to say, oh, well, I'll just take care of me later. I'll do this and that later, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Absolutely, you want to continue to show up for yourself. That's necessary, right? Week 3. I talked about fears. So we did it in that order so that you can test it. So you can test some of those boundaries. And then we're talking about those fears. I gave you 5 fears of why people don't set boundaries or why they don't implement boundaries. Those fears were fear how someone will feel if you say no. You're worried about somebody else and how they feeling and, how are they going to respond to your no? Because of how they're feeling, because you told them no, because you're always saying yes and you're always showing up. 2, fear of retaliation. Because you say no, you're not sure if they're going to want to get some get back because you say no. 3, they won't respect your boundaries. And they don't respect your boundaries because they go into the negotiation mode. Saying things like, oh, I need you to run an errand for me. And you're like, no, I can't. And they'll tell you, oh, all you got to do is, it's just around the corner, so if you go ahead and do this real quick, then you can continue to do what you were doing. They begin to negotiate with your time. But it's up to you to fix that. Number 4, fear of putting yourself first. You begin to feel guilty because you're showing up for you. And then everybody else is asking different things of you, and you're like, no, I can't, because you're putting you first. And people make you feel guilty when they realize, oh, you're not doing anything, but you couldn't show up for them. So you have a fear of putting you first. And ultimately, fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown. You're telling somebody no, or you're setting a boundary and you're implementing that boundary, and you just don't know what's on the other side. You don't know what's on the other side. You don't know when that other side is going to appear. Like, you just don't know. So fear of the unknown. So those are my 5 top reasons as to why people don't set and implement boundaries. This week, we're talking about ready responses. That's my favorite. That is my absolute favorite. Because there's something about each one of us that is absolutely consistent. You may not believe me and you may not pay attention to it, but after this live, and as you begin to sit in it, there's something about each one of us that is extremely consistent. And why I say that, if you ever notice, it may be different people, but they pretty much ask the same things of you or similar things of you, or the things are kind of, running along the same lines of what they asked of you. Think about it. Think about it. And I'm not trying to take you out your element or make you feel like, oh, wow, what are you trying to say about me? It's not just you. It's all of us. There's something consistent in all of us that when we pay attention to what is asked of us, it's pretty similar. The only thing changes is the person or the situation. But the thing that is required or asked of us most times is similar. And don't get me wrong, we have some 1 and 2 offs, right, where different things are asked of us. But for the most part, if you pay attention to what's asked of you, those things are so similar from different people, because that's just kind of the expectation, how you have shown up. So that's what they expect of you. So when you take time to say, no, stop, I don't want to, I'm not going to, I'm taking time for me, whatever you decide to say, they look at you sideways. Negotiations come in. They're like, wait a minute, you've never told me no before. Why all of a sudden it's no now? What are you doing? What's going on with you? And it doesn't mean that anything is going on with you. It just means you're taking some time for you. You're absolutely taking some time for you, which is what you should do. That is absolutely a requirement for all of us. Self-care is necessary. Self-care is absolutely necessary. So, our first ready response that we talked about, this was yesterday, and we're going to go through we're going to add a new one each day. So yesterday, our ready response is, no, not today. You don't need any more of an explanation than that. Now, people may ask more of an explanation than that, but you're not required to do that. Just, no, not today. So that was yesterday's ready response. Today, I'm going to give you a scenario first, and you'll hear the ready response in the scenario. Are you ready? All right, let's get into this. All right, so someone calls you and asks you for someone else's information. You'll get that call and be like, hey, what's, Michael's phone number? Michael can be a male or a female, so we're going to use a unisex name. And you're like, let me call Michael and ask. They say, oh, no, I had it, but I lost it. Or I got a new phone and all my numbers didn't transfer. And you're like, let me call and make sure it's okay. And they're like, no, I told you I had it, just give it to me. And you're like, no, let me call and see if it's okay. What they're doing is they're asking something of you, and you want to get permission to make sure that it's okay. And that's fair, because that's you respecting somebody else. They may have had the number, but they don't have it now. You don't know what goes on between those two people, and it's not your responsibility to know. But if you're going to be passing someone's information along, you will want to get their permission to know that it's okay. So when you say, let me call and check and make sure it's okay, the person that's asking you may feel some type of way or get a little offended, because they're thinking, oh, if I'm asking you, you should just give it to me. Nope, that's not the case. Yes, you're asking. No, I shouldn't just give it to you, because if you had it, you would be calling them. And since you're not and you're calling me, I am respecting that person and their boundaries. I'm going to give them a call and make sure it's okay. Because if it's not okay, I don't want to violate that person, because I wouldn't want someone to violate me. So yesterday was, no, not today. Today is, let me call and make sure it's okay. And that could be for a lot of things. It doesn't have to be for you giving somebody else's phone number or somebody else's information. It could be a lot of things. Let me call and check and make sure it's okay. Or you can just say, let me make sure it's okay. I'll call you back. You can say it in a number of ways. Totally up to you. So ready responses. Ready responses. So ready responses are pre-prepared answers to questions that you are normally asked. Although it's a different person, same scenario, same situation, because there's a consistency of who you are, how you show up, and what people ask of you. So it's okay to have the pre-prepared, ready responses, especially if you're not sure how you want to attack that. For the scenario we just talked about, you could have very well gave the person that's calling you Michael's number, right? You could have very well done that. Oh, here you go, 757-555-1212. You could have, but out of respect that you have for yourself and that you have for others, the answer was, let me check. I'll call you back. And that's absolutely okay. If you want people to respect your boundaries, you have to respect theirs. There's a give and take there. So, no, not today. Regardless of what they ask, that answer fits. Let me call and check and make sure it's okay. Or let me make sure it's okay. That's today's ready response. And that fits in a ton of examples. Let me check and make sure it's okay. Or let me make sure it's okay. I'll call you back. Give me a few minutes. You can use that response in about 1,000 different ways. You don't have to say it the way I said it. But I am giving you some examples of ready responses, which are pre-prepared answers that you have sitting there. And that helps you. So you don't have the stress of trying to respond or trying to think of an answer or trying to figure out how to let them know that you can't or you don't want to, or today is just not a good day. Ready responses. This is my favorite topic. And as we go about the week, we'll keep adding on different ready responses. So yesterday was no, not today. Today is, let me check. I'll call you back. So think about that. Ready responses are great. They're not rude. They're not disrespectful. They buy you time. They give you a chance to think about it. Because remember, you should go through your mental checklist before accepting any type of responsibility. For accepting any type of responsibility for doing anything for anybody else, regardless of what that is. It can be as simple as running an errand. It can be as simple as taking them to the grocery store, or as simple as having a conversation over the phone. It could be a number of things. But if you are not ready to do it, or you have other plans, or you just want to sit in it because you don't want to do anything, self-care is necessary. So sometimes it pays to have ready responses. So when things are asked of you, you can go ahead and respond and don't have to have, one of those drawn out conversations, one of those drawn out answers. And drawn out meaning that you have multiple conversations about the same thing when you could have just nipped it in the bud with what? Your ready response. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, and we're going to do ready response 3. My name is Keisha Mason Campbell. I want to thank you for joining me for Not Your Journey to Take Early Morning Sip and Chat. I am the author of Not Your Journey to Take. I teach women that no is a complete sentence. I show them how to set and establish healthy boundaries with family and friends, all while putting their needs first. If you want to talk to me and you're not sure how to set boundaries and you just want to have a conversation about it, why don't you book a strategy session with me and you'll see the link in the caption. And let's talk about it. I think we all need boundaries. Matter of fact, we all need boundaries. Not I think, we all do. We all do. Because this is how we take care of ourselves. This is how we set the boundaries for ourselves. This is how we live and make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Because before I leave, let me give my famous example that I have been given. This will be week 4. If you've ever been on a plane, the flight attendant says, when the cabin loses air pressure, the masks will fall. Secure your mask first, and then help others. Same premise is true in life. You can't help anybody else if you haven't helped yourself. So we're going to take it a step further. Say you don't secure your mask and you start helping everybody else. What happens? You begin to lose oxygen. And you can't help anybody else, nor can you help yourself. Now you're losing oxygen. You can't get to your mask. Nobody is paying attention to you because they're so focused on themselves and making sure that they can breathe. They don't see that you can't breathe. They don't see that you don't have on your mask. They don't see that your butt is falling out of your chair onto the floor and you can't reach your mask. They don't see any of that. Why? Because you've helped them put on their mask and they're trying to focus on their breathing and get them some oxygen. Secure your mask first. Then help everybody else. I'm not saying don't help. I'm not saying not show up. Absolutely show up if you can. Absolutely show up if you have the capacity. Absolutely show up if the time is okay for you and you don't have anything else going on and you've gone through your mental checklist and you're like, yes, I can. But if you can't, know that. Sit in that. Stand in that. And when you can, show up. Put your oxygen mask on first and then help others. And then help others. I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope that you have some takeaways from this. And I hope that you begin to think about your boundaries. Think about setting and implementing your boundaries. Letting those fears go. And coming up with some ready responses. I tell you what, in the comments, if you're watching me live or if you're watching a replay, think of some ready responses and put them in the comments. And if you're not comfortable putting them in the comments, shoot me a DM. Share with me some of your ready responses. And if you don't have any, think of some. Think of a scenario of something that you're asked most frequently. And then let's come up with a ready response that works for that. Let's come up with a ready response that works for that. Yesterday was, no, not today. Today is, let me make sure it's okay. Okay? So I look forward to looking at your comments and seeing your ready responses. You guys have a super fantastic morning, a super fantastic day, all on purpose. Let's make it intentional. Have a wonderful day. Do your thing. Again, my name is Keisha Mason Campbell. Keisha is Kesha. I am the author of Not Your Journey to Take, and I teach women that no is a complete sentence. I show them how to set healthy boundaries with their family and friends, all while putting their needs first. Let's have a super fantastic day on purpose. Thank you. Thank you for watching the latest Not Your Journey to Take video. I hope that each of you will be having a super fantastic day, and be sure to subscribe, like, and share.